What's happening, everybody? Monday, August 4th, 2025. My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Loud Majority Live. I was off most of last week because I was at the National Young Republican Conference, which, if you were on X over the last couple of days, you heard there was a bit of controversy. A wee bit of controversy at the National Young Republican Conference. We're going to get into everything that happened there, everything that didn't happen there, and everything that should have happened there as we move into the new era of Republican politics. Also, quick announcement. That's pretty awesome. I am streaming on TikTok for the first time today. So if you are one of the people watching on TikTok, leave me a comment below. Considering it's TikTok, make sure you make it the most offensive thing imaginable, because that's just what TikTok is. So first time streaming on TikTok, that's pretty cool. Also, Texas Democrats run out of the state. It's actually pretty ironic that that's happening in Texas, because that kind of leads in to the National Young Republican controversy. Donald Trump weighs in on whether or not Sydney Sweeney is hot or not. Spoiler alert, he's a fan, which, given Donald Trump's history, shouldn't shock anybody. Also, some pretty horrific stories coming out of a pastor has decided that he gets caught up in very unpastor-like behavior. We're going to get into all of the stuff that happened over the course of the weekend. Big news weekend, as always, with Donald Trump being now dubbed by CNN as the most influential person of the last century. And we're going to go into exactly why. Before we get started, guys, hit that thumbs up button wherever it is you may be watching. Do me a favor and hit the like button, hit the thumbs up button, hit the follow button, wherever it is you may be watching. We're going to be rocking, we're going to be rolling here, diving into all of the good stuff. So let's jump right on in. Because we got to address what happened down in Nashville, Tennessee. So the National Young Republican Conference was held this year in Nashville, Tennessee. Always a good time. It's always good to see young activists from around the country, young people in the political space, as I get towards the age of no longer being a young Republican, which very much upsets me in a great deal. You can't be in the Young Republicans over the age of 40, which sucks. But, you know, that kind of stuff happens. So what happened? Well, the quick overview of what happened is that there were two slates of candidates running to be the new leaders of the Republic of the Young Republicans, of the Young Republican Federation. One of them was the Grow YR party, and that was the current slate of candidates led by Hayden Paget. He is, I think he's a councilman in Plano, Texas. His slate of candidates had people from all over the country. The second slate was the Restore YR party, which, if you guys have been following this show for a while, was led by Staten Island's own Peter Junta. Good friend of mine, former head of the New York State Young Republicans. That organization was endorsed by Turning Point Action, Elise Stefanik, Scott Pressler, Roger Stone, Tyler Boyer of Turning Point Action, and Ryan Fournier, the leader of Students for Trump. So that ought to give you a quick idea of the sorts of people that were on our side. But like any establishment candidate, any establishment hack, some people didn't really want to see any real change within the party. And there were all sorts of shenanigans going on there, many of which I'll get into right now. One of them being the denial of delegates for the voting process. So the way this works, for all the people who don't know what happens there, there is a slate of every state gets a certain amount of delegates. Votes are tallied up at the end. One loses, one wins. Well, the state of Nevada, however you pronounce it, were supposed to be allocated 11 votes in this voting process. Due to a paperwork issue, they were not given their delegates in order to vote. Shockingly, this won't come as a shock to anybody, all of those delegates were set to vote for the new slate of candidates. Eventually, after like a 6-hour debate session, they were allowed to be back into the room. I was not allowed to be in the room, despite being on the advisory board of the New York City Young Republicans, the largest and oldest young Republican club in America. Wasn't allowed in there. I'm sure they had their reasons. Other people not allowed in the room was Michael Casey, who is on the New Jersey Young Republicans. He also works for Scott Pressler and James O'Keefe. So, not like he's too influential or anything. A third person who was not allowed in the room was the chairwoman of the Manhattan Republican Party. People that have no sway whatsoever. People that aren't really doing a lot of moving and shaking in the party. Except for the fact that some people were allowed in the room. Who was allowed in the room? Well, everyone voting for the current slate of candidates. There had been rumors circulating all over the place that the Michigan delegation was actually threatened by the current establishment in the Young Republicans, that they would have had apparently they were provided some sort of grant to come down, and if they didn't vote for these current seats for the current administration, they would have been denied that grant and then would have had to pay the full price for the ticket. Now, what is the Young Republicans? What is this? Well, there are many factions of Young Republicans around the country. I am a member of many of them. As I said, I am a member of the New York City Young Republicans. I've done work with the New York Federation of College Republicans. I've done work with Turning Point USA. Now, why does it matter? Why does it matter? Well, many of you may not have ever heard of your Young Republican chapter. And because of that, maybe you have kids who want to get involved but are unable to. Maybe they want to get involved with Turning Point, but there's no Turning Point chapter at your college, or you live in a small town and that hasn't been established yet. Well, counties all over the country have these Young Republican organizations. I think out of the 62 counties in the state of New York, for example, I think like 35, 40 of them have active chapters. So your young people out there can get involved. They can volunteer on campaigns. They can meet like-minded people like them. Well, some of you may have noticed over the course of the last, 10 years or so, there's been a bit of a shift in the Republican Party. There's been a bit of a movement away from the neocon era of the past, a move towards the more populous area of the Republican Party. Well, the establishment, Young Republicans that are in office right now, they're led by a man named Hayden Paget, whatever the hell his name is. I'll be honest, big guy from Texas, big old handsome guy. A lot of people want to vote for him. 2 years ago, when we tried to oust him, we came up very, very short. This year, we came up within 60 votes of being able to oust him and bring in new leadership to the Young Republicans. But what do the Young Republicans do? Now, if you're in New York, it's a little bit different than it is everywhere else. Being a Young Republican around the country has an actual gateway into joining the state party, into joining the ranks of elected officials. And having a spot on your Young Republicans is a very big deal. My friend Haley McAnally, who you guys have seen on the show before, she works for the Nebraska Republican Party. She's also the chairwoman of the Omaha Young Republicans. Well, this is the current chairman of the National Young Republicans. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think.
Black Lives Matter. Republicans, myself included, have hesitated to say the phrase. Republicans fear the phrase, but we should not. The history of our party is long, messy, and complex. Times have changed, and Republican policies change with them. The murder of George Floyd tore open a vein of outrage that had only just begun to heal. Hundreds of thousands, even millions, have marched in protest demanding justice, an end to police brutality, and real evidence that Black Lives Matter. Why do we keep seeing black men killed? Why are so many black men in prison? Why is it so hard for black people to get a good job and a good education? Black lives matter. And Republicans have been saying it for 166 years.
That's a real beard scratcher right there. That's a real beard scratcher right there. Well, now, look, do I want to judge somebody based on, like, some stupid video they put out a year and a half ago? Let's be honest, it wasn't 10 years ago, like when the world changed. Do I want to judge somebody based on that? Yes, here's why. Here's why I'm going to judge someone based on that. There is this idea amongst the old school Republicans that if we just play to the middle and we play nice with Democrats, that we'll be able to peel enough off to be able to win over the moderate voters. That way we can win elections. Now, there's one group in the party that believes things like that. There's another group that actually does shit, that actually gets things done, that realizes, no, the tide is changing. Young people are voting Republican in higher waves than we've ever seen before. So our goal has to be to continue to push the movement forward. Not tack to the middle, not meet Democrats halfway. Actually get out in those streets and do something. Anything. Now, before I continue, I want to make it very clear. I want to make this something very clear. Not everyone there is bad. Not everybody on the current board is bad. Some of them mean very well. I want to give a big shout out to the Florida delegation, the Georgia delegation, the California delegation, the Arizona delegation, obviously my hometown crew in New York. Obviously, the hometown team here in New York, not only for voting the right way, but for actually being filled up with people that do shit instead of talking about doing things. More importantly, some of you may want to know who was at this convention. Well, nobody. Nobody. Why? Because the majority of young Republicans who do things are at Turning Point because of the abdication of the responsibility of the National Federation of Young Republicans, which then gave rise to Turning Point, because obviously there was no real effort being made to get young people involved, and people can have their issues with Charlie Kirk and what he does and what he says and this and that. Whatever. You want to have your issue, have your issue. But there is no doubt that there is no organization on this planet that has done more to engage young people on the political right than Turning Point. And the reason why they've done that is because they filled a void. They fill the void in the conservative movement. In much the same way, many of you are watching this show because the media has abdicated their responsibility to correctly inform you of the world in which you live. So you have left cable news, you have left broadcast news, and you've come to the podcast realm to find truth, to find reality, to find authenticity. Is much the same way as many of the people have gone to Turning Point USA. And I love the work that they do. I absolutely love the work they do. Being present on college, I got to be honest with you. We had 5, 6 competitive congressional races here in the state of New York in 2022 that saved the House of Representatives for Republicans. Was the National Young Republicans here? No. No. I know, because I was involved in every one of those campaigns, and not a single damn one of them stepped foot on Long Island. The Long Island organizations did. The state did, for sure. But at this convention, I got to watch people fight over the smallest throne in America. And it doesn't have to be. It could be better. Now, there have been many talks out there about forming a new young Republican organization that actually gets things done, and I'm not a fan of that idea. Tyler Boyer put it out from Maricopa County. Love Tyler. I would encourage each and every one of you to get your kids involved in their local chapter, wherever it is they may be watching. And I want to be clear, if you're watching this from Long Island, the Long Island chapter does not like me. But it's not about me. It's about the movement, and it's about moving forward. It's about getting people engaged and getting them involved. I don't give a shit about me. You want to join the Loud Majority? Join the Loud Majority. We're going to do the exact same thing. You want to join the New York City Club? Let's do it, baby. We're going to be doing activism all throughout the 5 boroughs, leading up to this mayor's race, leading up to the governor's race in 2026. I said on a show earlier this morning that if where you live is not doing what you think needs to be done, then you need to be the leader of the movement you want to see. 250 years ago, a bunch of guys got together in Philadelphia and they just decided to change the world. They didn't ask permission. They didn't wait their turn. They just did it because they knew it was the right thing to be done. And we are the luckiest people in the world because we have the ability to dictate the world in which we live. And the last 10 years in Republican politics has shown that. We had been repeatedly lied to by people like George W. Bush and Barack Obama on both the right and the left. And you've seen the rise of the populist right and the populist left. Now, the populist left scares the other crap out of me. But at least they're authentic. Zoran Mondani is who he is every day of the week. He's a communist on Monday. He's a communist on Wednesday. He's a communist on Friday. We are in the age of authenticity. And if you are one of the fake people out there who thinks that because you live in a red state, it's because of the work you did, even though you were born on third base and think you hit a triple, you got another thing coming because 90% of you wouldn't set foot doing activism in Atlanta, in Detroit, in Los Angeles, in New York City. So shout out to the people that are actually out there doing the good work. Now, why do I call this guy? Look, I got to be honest with you. None of you knew who this guy Hayden was a week ago, and none of you will know who he is next week. The slow march through the institutions is the point. We lost by over 200 votes 2 years ago in order to get this guy out of office. This time, even with all the shenanigans being played, we lost by only 60. And 2 years from now, I will guarantee you a win. I guarantee you a win because it is time to move this party forward from the neocon era. Everybody was talking about this. I got calls from every damn Twitter influencer there is saying, Kevin Smith, you're in Nashville. What the sweet hell is going on down at that convention? Now, I was not allowed in the room for it, which I think is kind of funny because they had no problem taking my money. I was not allowed in the room for it. But what I'll tell you is this. The outrage this caused, and shout out to Eric Doherty from Real Florida News. I think it is Florida Real News, one of them. He put out a video that jumped this whole thing off. And we saw comments from the head of the Florida Republican Party asking what in the sweet hell is going on. As a matter of fact, I got word just before the show that the current president and his administration, someone in there of the Young Republicans, has been calling elected officials in the state of New Jersey, asking them why they got involved in the Young Republican race. I would urge each and every one of them, and I would remind them, that Elise Stefanik endorsed someone in that race, Peter Junta, our candidate, and I would love to see if any of you have the balls to call her and complain, because I got a feeling you're going to get told, in the words of my Italian brethren, vanabla buddy, okay? There's a sea change going on, and I've had my issues with the Young Republicans for quite some time. I really have. Just ask them. They'll tell you. They've protested me in the past. But to watch the people who I don't like, they don't like me, I don't like them, to watch them actually put their foot down and stand for something, I was actually quite proud of them. I bet it felt good. I bet it felt good to stand up for what you believe in. Do more of it, guys. and maybe we'll actually see some change. Guys, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. We are going to be rocking and rolling here till 2 p.m. For those of you asking about LFA TV, there's going to be a switch up in the scheduling. Jeremy will talk about that when it gets figured all out. But guys, once again, hit the thumbs up button wherever you're watching. I'm on TikTok, streaming on TikTok for the first time. Make sure you leave me a nasty comment in the comment section, as people tend to do on TikTok, because the comment section on TikTok is one of the worst places in America. Guys, before we keep rocking and rolling here today, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. We're going to be sending out an email right after this show. Make sure you guys are signed up for that so you can stay up to date on all of the updates. Once again, for the local audience, which I see big numbers here today, the voter registration drive is happening all over Long Island, with August 24th at the Wisconsin Street Fair and August 31st at the Ronkonkoma Street Fair. Let's get out there. Let's get some new voters. Things are going to be great. Also, for my New Jersey crew on August 9th, make sure you are down Seaside Heights. Scott Pressler, Jack Chittarelli, Sid Rosenberg will be down there with them. Big voter registration drive down on the shore. I'm going to try to make it. We're going to see what'll happen there. But stay tuned for all the updates. Stay connected. LoudMajorityUSA.com. That's LoudMajorityUSA.com. So let's get to the news of the day. Big news breaking so far this morning with Republican firebrand and absolute smoke show. Nancy Mace launches her bid for the South Carolina governorship. She enters a crowded field in the gubernatorial primary to succeed the term-limited Henry McMaster. Nancy Mace, the South Carolina Republican with a large national profile, on Monday declared her candidacy to run the Palmetto State. I don't know what the hell a Palmetto is, but she said, "I'm running to put South Carolina first." Mace, the three-term member of Congress who represents Coastal Congressional District in the state's Low Country, I don't know what the hell that means, maybe you guys do, said in a statement with Fox News Digital. Mace launched her campaign arguing that we need to continue doing things we've always done, as she took aim at what she called weak leadership in the state. This is big stuff. This is big news. Nancy Mace released a video announcing her endorsement. Let me pull that up for you guys real quick. Let me see if I can get that up here real quick. Sorry, I didn't know there was a video on that one. Give me 2 seconds. That should be exciting because, Nancy Mace has never done anything in her life, at a 5. She's either a 10 or a 0. Normally she's a 10. But I can't wait to see her jump in the race and actually shake things up a little bit. Here was Nancy Mace's announcement video.
A House Republican has drawn the ire of both Democrats and members of her own party.
She has a way of getting under their skin.
Representative Nancy Mace. Firebrand Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace.
She's a fighter. I know about that. She's a fighter.
She learned resilience early on. Mace became the first woman to graduate from South Carolina's famed military college.
You've taken a lot of abuse for standing up for the rights of women.
But what they forget is that, Laura, I'm the first woman to graduate from the Citadel. I will not be bullied into silence.
Nancy Mace scores a huge victory in her fight to keep biological men out of women's bathrooms.
We will be courageous. We will be resilient.
When she sets her sight on something, she's tough.
And we will be prepared to take on the challenges of this historic moment.
Nancy, give me a call. I'll come down to the Low Country, whatever the hell that is, and give you a hand running for governor. I think that will be absolutely great. And look, it's going to be entertaining, to say the least. It's good to see the firebrands are beginning to step up. That's going to be a current theme of this show today. Firebrands stepping up in the Republican Party to fight for what they believe in, to fight for the agenda. Someone like Nancy Mace has never shied away from saying exactly what she believes in and fighting for that. I would say, well, some people would say she has gone a little overboard sometimes. But you know what? Sometimes you gotta ruffle some feathers. So it's great to see that Nancy Mace has dove right in head first. Other people who have seemed to have dove out head first would be the Texas Democratic delegation, in one of the weirdest stories I think I've ever heard in my entire life. We're going to get to that in 1 second. Once again, guys, hit the thumbs up button, share the video out all over the place. We're going to keep rocking and rolling here across all of the platforms, because you see, the Texas House Committee has approved a new congressional map. The congressional map would give Republicans a stronger advantage in the midterms. We are also seeing places like Florida, with Governor DeSantis considering a redistricting to make things a little bit more proportionate. The Texas House Redistricting Committee voted on Saturday to advance a new congressional map that would give Republicans a stronger advantage in the upcoming elections, moving the proposal to a full House vote. This from the Post Millennial. The redrawn map is expected to make 5 Democratic-held congressional districts more favorable for Republican candidates in 2026. Texas Republicans argue that the redistricting is necessary to correct what they have described as unconstitutional and racially gerrymandered maps in place. The committee voted The committee vote was made on party lines, go figure. President Trump was previously praised the efforts to implement the new map, saying the updated districts would help Republicans maintain control in 2026. According to data from the Texas Legislative Council, the proposed map would have resulted in Trump winning 30 of the state's congressional districts, compared to just 27 under the existing boundaries. The number of districts Trump would have carried by more than 10 points has also increased by 5, according to the new map. The Texas Democratic Chair, Kendall Schroeder, reacted to the efforts by Texas Republicans, saying the party would file a lawsuit should the map pass. In a statement, Schroeder accused Republicans of, quote, silencing voters on behalf of Donald Trump, which I find to be hilarious, because as I have said on this show numerous times, and you can go back and check it just in case you think I'm being biased about this, if you live in a blue state, Democrats draw the maps for themselves. If you live in a red state, Republicans draw it for themselves. Need I give you any more proof? There are some people out there who are very, very, very upset at the potential gerrymandered districts in the state of Texas. Although none of them complain about, let's say, the blue state of Illinois, which here is their congressional map. Let's make this a little bit bigger. You see that orange going right through the middle of the purple district? That is one congressional district. So take your idea of gerrymandered districts and, as I would say gently, blow it directly out of your ass. Here we go. Let's pull up the state of New York. Let's pull up the state of New York, which had to be sued by he who shall not be named, George Santos. Why did it have to be sued by George Santos? Well, for the Long Islanders listening, the original New York congressional delegation map took the New York 3rd Congressional District from Smithtown to Rye Playland, which means in order to travel your district, you'd have to go over 3 bridges and pass through 5 different counties. So George Santos then sued. I know we're not allowed to mention him because, he made certain people in power look bad, which, quite frankly, isn't all that challenging. He sued to have the maps redrawn, and because of that, many members of Congress, you know who you are, got your butts saved. And because of that George Santos lawsuit, New York was able to flip 5 congressional seats, including his, holding on to the purple areas like Lee Zeldin's seat, and Mark Molinaro's seat, and Mike Lawler's seat, holding on to those seats in order to secure the House majority. What did George get for his trouble? Well, he got expelled from Congress. But let's see how the new maps are drawn. What is this? What is that weird little blue line, that blue dot right in the middle? Well, that would be Albany County. That would be the capital region. You see how that is perfectly cut out in order to suit a Democratic seat? Where you would think it would just be cut in half and absorbed into the bottom district. But no. We've got to make sure that a Democrat holds on to the Albany seat, because God forbid we could have a new one there. Yes, once again, that's a nice gerrymandered district. So for all the Democrats out there who want to piss and moan about gerrymandering, just know that you all do it too. So what did Democrats do? What did Texas Democrats do? Did they stay and fight? No, they all fled the state. They ran away from Texas because now the Texas Legislative House does not have enough people to create a quorum to vote on the bill. Here were the people of Texas pissing and moaning about that.
We're not here to play political games. We're here to demand an end to this corrupt process.
Yeah, absolutely.
We ask them to stop hiding things from the public. We ask them to stop doing things behind closed doors. We ask them to stop attacking Texas communities. They refused because their loyalty and fealty to Donald Trump overrides all other interests.
So they fled the state. Now, of course, that guy, nobody knows who the hell he is. He's hiding out in Illinois. Need I say it one more time? This is an Illinois congressional district. Yeah, that's right. That yellow line going across, J.B. Pritzker's fat ass thinks is acceptable. See, that's okay to do because it benefits him and the rest of the congressional delegation. That's okay. So they have fled the state. So a vote cannot take place. But the question is, what will be done about this? Can anything be done about this? Well, Greg Abbott went on Fox News this morning and said that it is possible if Democrats are being, say, put up in a hotel or someone is buying them lunch while they are abdicating their responsibility, they could be charged with second-degree felony bribery charges.
You said in your statement that you put out today to all of them, in a letter to them, you said in addition to abandoning their offices, these legislators may also have committed felonies. What is the felony? What are the penalties for this?
So very simply, it would be bribery if any lawmaker took money to perform or to refuse to perform an act in the legislature. And the reports are these legislators have been both, they sought money and they offered money to skip the vote, to leave the legislature, to take a legislative act. That would be bribery. And so the facts will have to come out. But I think based upon comments made by legislators themselves, they face a possibility of facing bribery charges, which is a second-degree felony in the state of Texas. There's one way to cure that, and that is if they get back to the state of Texas and make quorum today at a hearing that we have at 3 o'clock, they can cure themselves of any quid pro quo that would subject them to potential bribery charges.
Look, I wish he would say it with a little bit more gusto, but he's not messing around here. Also, just a little nugget, just a thought. Since they are openly playing hooky on work, perhaps the state of Texas can openly not pay them. I mean, it's not like they're out sick. It's not like they took a vacation time. They are purposefully going out of their way not to show up to work. Of course, the usual suspects are very impressed by this. People like Jasmine Crockett. She almost didn't even have time to put on her eyelashes before putting out a preposterous statement on the matter. They're very upset. Why? Because Jasmine Crockett's probably going to lose because of this. And she should lose because of this. And she should lose. Greg Abbott also threatened to remove Democratic lawmakers and vacated their seats as more than 50 lawmakers fled the state to block a vote on the redistricting proposal. Greg Abbott warned of legal action to remove the lawmakers from office if they fail to return to Austin by Monday, which is today. We will get an update on that as it goes. Abbott also raised the possibility of felony charges for lawmakers who are fundraising to pay the $500 a day fines incurred for missing a special session. He alleged that soliciting donations to avoid penalties would constitute bribery and warned that the donors may face legal action also. Of course, many of the Democrats are hiding out in places like New York and California and Illinois. Of course, he's hiding in front of J.B. Pritzker when everyone knows if you really want to hide, you have to be standing behind J.B. Pritzker. That way you'll never be seen. But they're out in front, openly flouting the rule, openly flouting the law, openly flouting the rules. But they don't care. They're Democrats. They make things up as they go along, which is probably why support for Democrats all over the country have been dropping like a lead balloon. Here's CNN.
Democrats at this point are historically divided. It is a complete and utter mess. It is messier than a hoarder's basement. What are we talking about here? The national early poll leader, 25% plus. Normally, that's where Democrats are. Biden was at 25% plus in 2020. Hillary Clinton was in 08 and 16. Gore was in 00 and 04. At this particular point, there is no one in the Democratic race for president who's polling at 25% plus. The water is quite warm. If you're a Democrat potentially thinking about running in 2028, jump right in, because at this point, there is no front runner.
What do you think? Is that because how people view the Democratic Party right now, is that contributing to this?
Yeah, I think that is in large part of what's going on, is one of the reasons why there is no front runner. Nobody wants to put anybody up at the top of their ballot list, is because at this particular point, the Democratic brand is in the basement. It is total and complete garbage in the mind of the American public. The Democratic Party's net favorable rating, record lows in all three. Wall Street Journal, 30 points underwater. CNN, 26 points underwater. Gallup, 26 points underwater. And that is being driven in large part by discontent within the Democratic base. The Democratic base wants something different. We'll ultimately end up seeing who they choose. It'll be quite the thing who ultimately gets the rose.
Yes, sir.
And what's really beginning to hurt Democrats is that even now CNN is beginning to admit that Donald Trump may be the most influential person of the century. We're going to get to that in 1 minute. Before we do that, Old Glory Bank.
When big banks decide who gets access to America's financial systems and who doesn't, who do you think gets left out? Middle Americans who proudly wave their pro-America values. Cancel culture in banking is corrosive. It limits your participation in a vibrant, free market economy. Fortunately, you can fight back. You now have the opportunity to invest in the bank that's investing in a fair American banking system, one based in freedom. Ownership in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank, is here. Old Glory Bank is a full-service FDIC-insured bank that's the alternative to overreaching, un-American big banks. We stand for privacy, security, and liberty. We stand for freedom, family, faith, and the flag. We stand for all the values you stand for, and for the values big banks can't stand. So help keep banking in the hands of Main Street, not Wall Street. To invest in Old Glory Bank, go to oldglorybank.com.
Guys, head on over to oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. Consider setting up an account today. I would suggest a CD, but that's not financial advice. Lock those rates in before Jerome Powell either gets fired or wises up. Head on over to oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. So now CNN is beginning to admit that Donald Trump might be one of the most influential people in the last 100 years. Here's Harry Enton giving you the reasons why.
And I think the theme of this segment is going to be love it, like it, lump it. Trump's remaking the United States of America. We can start there with tariffs. What are we talking about? No tacos for Trump. The effective tariff rate, get this, 18%. It is the highest, Omar, the highest since the 1930s, up from, get this, just 2% last year. As I'm going to talk about in this segment, I can't think of a more influential president during this century, and it starts here with tariffs. He said he was going to raise tariffs, and despite the claims otherwise, he is in fact doing that. The effective tariff rate at this point looks to be 9 times as high as it was last year, the highest since the 1930s in FDR, Omar.
And the effective tariff rate is up from 2% last year, for those that might see the banner there. Tariffs, though, aren't the only way Trump's remaking policy in America, right?
It is not the only way that Trump is remaking America. What are we talking about? Well, let's jump. The other big thing that Trump ran on, right, was immigration. How about net migration in the United States? Get this, it's down. It's going to be down at least 60%. We may be dealing with, get this, negative net migration to the United States in 2025. That would be the first time there is negative net migration in this country in at least 50 years. We're talking about down from 2.8 million in 2024. So Donald Trump has always run on tariffs, and he's run on a hawkish line on immigration. And on both of those issues, we are seeing record high tariff rates for this century going all the way back, well back into the early part of the 20th century. And when it comes to immigration, net migration, we are seeing record low levels, way down from where we were during the Biden administration. We are potentially looking at negative net migration for the first time in at least 50 years. And that is a big reason why that I'm saying that Trump, at least in my mind, is the most influential president, certainly this century, and probably dating a good back chunk into the 20th century as well, Omar.
So when you say most influential, I mean, statistically, how much is Trump doing?
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about this. How about executive orders? Already, 180 executive orders signed by Donald Trump this year. You have to go all the way back to the FDR administration once again to find a year in which there were as many executive orders signed as we have this year. To give you an idea, Biden during his first year signed 77. That's the entire year. We're only a little bit more than halfway through this year, Omar. Again, this is why I'm saying executive orders, immigration with net migration, and we're talking about tariffs and the effective tariff rate. Donald Trump is remaking the United States. Love it, like it, or lump it. He is.
Yeah, he's remaking the United States, and it's hard for people to understand that we're getting exactly what we voted for. And as we on the right get exactly what we vote for, Democrats continue to go out of their way to be as radical as humanly possible and as appealing as they can be. Even so much so that Bill Maher is starting to notice. Bill Maher is starting to notice that if Democrats go out of their way to elect someone like Zohran Mamdani, it may very well be the end of the Democratic Party.
New York is New York. It's definitely it's the media capital, the financial capital. It is a bellwether like no other city is in this country. So don't tell me that who the mayor of New York is doesn't matter.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second. Do you think, let's say, on the seize the means of production, do you think that the mayor, that one person, if he is a democratic socialist, do you think that he would have the power and influence to be able to, usher in socialism?
He definitely has the power and influence to elect J.D. Vance or whoever is the Republican candidate next time. It is a walking commercial for the Republican Party nationally.
The Republicans are going to.
When you let the Democrat socialists, and now they're actually calling themselves socialists, when you let them take over a major American city, this is what you get. The state-run grocery stores, which work so well in Cuba and the Soviet Union and Venezuela, just bad ideas. And again, this ugly streak, streak of anti-Semitism.
Who's the most popular politician on the left?
AOC? I don't know.
One of, but who's Bernie? Bernie is Bernie is. I mean, he's not a capitalist.
No, he's not, and he's also not president.
He's not. But
never would be.
But neither is Mamdani.
No, but he will, trust me, he will be featured in the campaign commercials.
But they're going to feature people. They boogeyman everybody.
Yeah, but you don't have to boogeyman him.
There's a difference here. You see, Zoran Mondani would be an executive, something Bernie Sanders would never be. It is easy to be idealistic and, I'm sorry to say, retarded when you are representing a small conclave in America like Bernie Sanders does, or a small assembly district in New York like Zoran Mondani does, or a small congressional district in the South Bronx like AOC does. It is quite the other thing if you are the executive of something, be it a mayor, be it a town supervisor, be it a governor, be it a president. It is very different. And yes, Republicans will feature the failures of New York City and put it on Zoran Mondani and say, you do not want this shit coming to a town near you. They will also feature someone like Omar Fatah. Why? Because it turns out that some stuff is happening in some of these places that might not be the best. And the Democrats can't run away from it. They can't run away from their most radical base. Like, Kevin, what do you mean? Whatever do you mean? I mean, what if Democrats were out there, I don't know, supporting a Somalian immigrant who raped a 12-year-old? What if that happened? Here's Savannah Hernandez.
This is Savannah Hernandez standing in front of the Al Hassan Islamic Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. Now, I'm standing here because this mosque has made national headlines after they penned a letter of community support for a Somali immigrant who sexually assaulted a 12-year-old. Now, back in 2024, this perpetrator was charged after abducting a 12-year-old from her backyard, forcing her into his vehicle, and then sexually assaulting her. He has since been convicted of first-degree criminal sexual assault. Now, after being convicted, his family members were sending letters to the judge to ask the judge to consider his character when making that sentencing. And one of those letters came from the Al Hassan Islamic Center. It was actually signed by their executive director, stating that he had to face cultural differences and the challenges of taking on a new culture. They also framed him as a family-oriented man who sends his money oftentimes back to his family members in Somalia. The judge actually gave him the lightest sentencing possible. He is only going to be serving 8 years in jail for this crime. He was sentenced to 12 years, but those last 4 years are going to be spent out of jail and on probation. By the way, going back to that point about the challenges of a different culture, this perpetrator has been in the United States of America since 2006. So he's been in the United States for 19 years. He was born in Somalia, but he has been here for almost 2 decades at this point. However, the culture coming into play when it comes to, as the Islamic Center put it, this situation, the situation, of course, being him sexually assaulting and abducting a 12-year-old girl. So just wanted to give you guys an idea of some of these stories, some of the cultural impact happening here in Minnesota as it relates to the Somali community.
And guys, make sure you're following Savannah Hernandez over at Turning Point USA. She's got more courage, bigger cojones to run up into some of the places that I would never be caught dead in my entire life. Savannah runs directly into it. Make sure, I think her name is Sav Says on X. Make sure you guys give her a follow for all the updates. But Democrats can't run away from it. They can't run away because they're afraid of their radical left. And I want to be clear, just so you don't think this is like a religious thing, even though, you know, it is. I think the punishment for this guy should be the exact same punishment for a Christian pastor who did the exact same thing.
How's it going, Roger? Good. You want to talk to me privately, or do you want your boyfriend to find out, or your husband?
What?
I mean, do you want to talk to me privately outside? You better talk to me. I mean, like I said, I don't want him to hear. Otherwise, we can tell him if you want. It's a picture of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to go walk and talk? We just want to keep it private.
What do you want to do?
I mean, I want to talk to you about the conversations you were having with the people that were talking to you on Grindr.
It's okay.
It's okay?
Yes.
Do you want me to tell him, or you want me to call the cops? What would your church think? Do you want to just have a conversation, man? I just want to get your side of the story.
Sure. Let's have a conversation.
You want to go walk?
We can just do it right here.
So I'm filming, obviously, because I don't know you, and I just want you to keep your hands to yourself, because obviously Again, I don't know you, but I have a lot of information, Roger. I know everything about you.
Okay.
What's going on at church? Why are you out for a couple weeks?
I'm having surgery.
Having surgery? Okay. Well, I mean, he's right there. So you mean we can either like have this with him or by yourself, or
we can just do it right here.
Okay.
Let's just talk.
So, are you familiar with like what I'm referencing?
Never. Well, I know Grindr.
Okay. Like how many underage boys are you talking to on Grindr?
I don't know.
Or how many have reached out to you? How many have talked to you, or what?
I assume they're all of age.
I have evidence otherwise, Roger. Obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be here.
Okay. I don't know their ages.
Okay.
When I talk to someone on Grindr, I assume.
You assume until someone tells you otherwise, or
I ask them.
What if someone tells you otherwise?
Then I cancel conversations.
Always?
I try to. Yes.
Try to? What prevents you from being able to? Because, like I said, man, I wouldn't be here, obviously, if I didn't have the information and evidence of showing otherwise. So, it's just best if you're honest, man.
I'm trying.
Trying? How many underage boys? How many underage boys' evidence am I going to have in my pocket to talk to you about?
How many underage boys? I don't know. If that answer is, I don't know, more than 0, the exact same thing should happen to him than that guy, than the Somalian who dragged a 12-year-old girl into the back of his car and raped her. I'll let you in the chat figure out what you want that to be. Just so we're clear, it's not a race thing. It's not a religion thing. Of course, you know. I wouldn't Google the Rotherham girls. I wouldn't do that if you're on the left. I wouldn't do that. Don't Google the 1,200 girls in Rotherham, England. You're not going to like what comes up. Guys, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. We are rocking. We are rolling here. We got 6 minutes left in the show. We're going to have a little bit of fun towards the end of the show because as Donald Trump can only do, we continue to win on the cultural front. What am I talking about? Well, you may have seen recently an actress. You may have seen an actress recently named Sydney Sweeney, who I have to be honest with you, I have never seen one of her movies. I don't know anything she's ever been in. However, I do know that she happens to be, she is all the things that the left hates. She is white. She is blonde. She is really hot. And as we found out this weekend, she's also a registered Republican. Now, all of those things put together sound spectacular to me. But Sydney Sweeney last week put out an American Eagle jeans ad, which very much upset the lefties. Now, with that being said, if you notice, the people who are the most upset about this ad are all the people who have the least in common with Sydney Sweeney. And by that I mean the majority of them are complete and utter landwells.
The Sydney Sweeney ad, have you seen it?
Oh, yes, I have.
What are your thoughts?
Trying to calm myself, but that would, Sydney Sweeney has good really? Like, the eugenics in that, it's dripping with it, and I'm like, no.
When you saw it, what did you think of?
I mean, I thought, it was disgusting. I think it's just showing what kind of country we're turning into. It's white supremacy at the end of the day. That's what this ad is representing.
I didn't see it, but I have heard quite a bit about it. And
what in the sweet hell is that thing? What is that? What is that good? I don't know.
A lot saying that it's slighted towards like eugenics and comparing the blue jeans to blue jeans, blue blood, white hair, or not white hair, but like blonde hair, blue eyes, and there's been a lot of comparison to that.
I also want to thank her for having a pen that matches her hair color. You know, we got to make sure we match when we're a freak. The pen hanging from your chest has to match your hair color. I'm sure she's got it in blue and green and all the other ones as well.
I think it's absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah, that's not a good look. I mean, you know.
Nobody wants to touch your body, sweetheart.
Blonde hair, blue-eyed, white woman, you know, very cute, and a lot of the things she's been doing online have been a little bit questionable. It seems that she's definitely been, pandering to a certain group of men online.
I've seen parts of it, not the whole thing. I understand why people are offended. Whatever the intentions were, the impact is very problematic.
It's not acceptable to begin with, so.
Yeah. And I've been seeing a lot of people online being like, okay, well, if we ran the same ad with a black woman, it would be interpreted differently. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that is that, you know, a black woman probably wouldn't use the same inflection, and, you know, they didn't do that. So, you know, they can say what ifs all they want, but the fact of the matter is they used a white woman to send a very specific message.
What about you?
I definitely think if it were a black woman, it would send a different message, specifically because that's the world that we've created, that we've grown up in. And
oh, that's the world we've created. But what if they did use a black woman in the ad? What if they did? Would there be any sort of controversy? Yeah. Turns out it's the same ad, except it's with Beyonce. And since the controversy, it turns out American Eagle stock has gone up 22% today. 22%. But, as I said, what does that have to do with Donald Trump? What does that have to do with Donald Trump? Well, it turns out, and this may come as a shock to some people, it turns out Donald Trump has an affinity for hot women because he's a man. Because he's a man, so naturally, he had the right take on this one.
Actress Sydney Sweeney had come out this weekend that she was a registered Republican. Any thoughts on that?
That who was?
Sydney Sweeney. She's like a very hot actress right now.
She's a registered Republican?
Yes.
Oh, now I love her ad. Is that right? Is Sydney Sweeney? You'd be surprised at how many people are Republicans. That's what I wouldn't have known, but I'm glad you told me that. If Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican, I think her ad is fantastic. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
He's just hilarious. That's our guy. That's our guy. And that's all the time we have for today, guys. I once again make sure you guys hit the follow button wherever it is you may be watching. If you're on TikTok, make sure you leave me an offensive comment in the comment section, as you guys are prone to do, because some of the people on TikTok are the worst, are the absolute worst. Guys, we'll be back live tomorrow. Until then, everybody, stay loud.